and also Professor Jorge Almeida.
Fernando, muito obrigado. De facto, acabou de frisar o facto da minha idade. Já ando aqui há uns anos. Temos tido intervenções em português, em inglês. Eu vou fazer um bocadinho da combinação das duas. Vou começar em português e depois, para benefício de quem está a assistir e que não fala português, eu vou depois terminar a parte mais técnica em inglês. Mas quero começar em português para agradecer e para dar parabéns à Escola Náutica pela organização deste webinar. Eu defendo há muitos anos que a única forma de haver desenvolvimento económico é através do triângulo virtuoso do Estado, das universidades e do tecido empresarial, da iniciativa privada. E de facto é com muito agrado que eu vejo o envolvimento da Escola Náutica em projetos como este projeto da eShip e de outros, em que realmente esse triângulo está presente e é um fator, na minha opinião, é um fator essencial de progresso. O tema, eu estou aqui com dois chapéus, de facto, porque por um lado estou aqui, sobretudo, como Presidente da Comunidade Portuária e Logística de Sines. Mudámos o nome de Comunidade Portuária para Comunidade Portuária e Logística de Sines, exatamente para enfatizar a importância cada vez maior do posicionamento do Porto como elemento de uma cadeia logística integrada. Mas estou aqui também como um dos promotores deste projeto eShip, que curiosamente começou com um almoço que eu tive com Ian Torrey em Oslo. Eu tinha estado envolvido num projeto há uns anos atrás em termos da informatização e da transição digital para o mercado de shipping, e foi um projeto que acabou por não ter um fim comercial bem sucedido, porque entretanto também as coisas modificaram, a tecnologia evoluiu de uma forma muito favorável e parece, de facto, há hoje em dia condições para que projetos desta natureza possam ter sucesso e vamos ouvir mais sobre esse tema mais à frente. Mas aqui a minha intervenção é sobretudo para tentar enquadrar não só este projeto, mas em geral a atividade do setor marítimo portuário na evolução da logística marítima, maritime logistics, e agora eu passo para a parte inglesa. We're going to talk about maritime logistics. Yeah, Tori, I just reminded myself of the lunch we had in Oslo, which is behind a bit of this initiative of eShip. Maritime logistics is going through a very fast and disrupting transition. I'm sure you are aware of that. To some extent, this pandemic, the COVID pandemic, has called the attention to the fragility of the traditional logistic chains. They were largely based on a concept that started about 40 years ago of the so-called just-in-time. This was when interest rates were very high, so it made sense, and also when the world was much simpler. Now we are living in a world where we have lots of disruptions, not only the disruptions from unexpected virus like the COVID, but we have disruptions from the political side. So all the logistic chains really are much less resilient, if you will, today than they were a few years ago. And because of that, there are strong forces that are contributing to change the logistics in general and the maritime logistics in particular. And interestingly enough, the kickoff for this trend was by Amazon. We all know about Amazon, but in 2016, Amazon decided that they wanted to be a ship operator, a maritime transporter. So they got the statute without ships. They got the statute of what is called NVOCC, non-vessel operating common carrier, which for all purposes is really a shipping company without ships. And because they have enough cargo, they were able to reserve or obtain space in ships, and then essentially sell the transportation service to themselves, to their clients. Okay, and this created a big disruption, if you will, in the market. Now, if you know, I'm sure you know about Amazon, but maybe you're not aware that Amazon positions itself not as a maritime commerce company, but as a logistics company. I recommend to the students that are interested in this topic to read the biography of Jeff Bezos. And basically, they're a logistics company. This is where they make a difference. This is where they're very good. And they started selling ships electronically and was relatively successful. They were almost bankrupt. Then slowly they start entering other markets. They entered, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, the grocery store market, as you may know. And each market they entered, they basically reduce the cost. They make it much more efficient and essentially disrupt it. And what they do, they force all the traditional players to readjust their own strategy. So in the maritime logistics, this had a very strong effect. Okay, the first one that responded in a more visible way was Maersk. Maersk is the first or second, depending how you count today, largest shipping company in the world. And in 2017 or 2018. They publicly announced that they're going to integrate all the logistic operators, so the maritime operators, the warehouses, all the logistics, into one single service, and becoming, so to speak, the Federal Express of the maritime transport. So, in fact, they're doing that, which is a very bold move, because some of the biggest clients of Maersk, in fact, are logistic operators. So, in fact, they're competing with their clients, which normally is not a good idea, but they felt that this was the response to the way the world is evolving, the need to have an as efficient logistic chain as possible. Then, of course, as you may know, MSC has made a very, very strong bet on the rail transport, so integrating the maritime and the rail, which is a complementary association that is extremely efficient in terms of the logistics, in terms of the time, in terms of the cost, and so on, and has been disrupting very much the logistics scenario here in Portugal, but not only in Portugal. In fact, nowadays you have direct services to the rest of Europe. You may know too that there is a Chinese rail services all the way from China that comes all the way nowadays to Madrid. They have 2 trains per week, and we're talking with them essentially to bring it as well to all the way to Sines. So all these are factors that are big changes to the traditional logistic network. The other. So this is one of the factors. In fact, is this integration and consolidation of the logistic chain. CMA CGM, the French ship owner, has also made a huge bet by acquiring one of the largest logistic operators, all in response of this need to compete in a more efficient way. Then you have, of course, COSCO. COSCO is taking a different tack, but also is disrupting the traditional established logistic chains. They made a huge bet, as you may know, in a port in Greece, in Piraeus, which is now the largest port in the Mediterranean, the 4th largest in Europe. And the idea or the concept, in fact, is using Piraeus as the gateway to serve the north of Europe by rail. So, in fact, competing directly with the rails, with the maritime services to the North Europe, which is the largest market in Europe, as you know. They have not been very successful for many reasons. One of them for political reasons. So there's been a bit of a resistance to the investment to connect Piraeus directly to the north of Europe. But that was the concept. So all these are very disruptive initiatives. And in the end, we'll see which one is the strongest and which one will survive, right? But besides this integration of the logistic chain, there are 2 other strong factors that are, to some extent, influencing the way the maritime logistics is evolving. One of them, we talked already quite a bit about it, and is present on every day in the newspapers, which is to fight the climate changes, to essentially reduce the emissions, the gas emissions. As you know, maritime transport has a bad name, and justly so, because actually maritime transport is one of the, I would say, is probably the most climate-friendly mode of transport, but as a bad name. But this is driving also very much the changes. And in fact, the maritime sector, I think, is the only sector where you have the suppliers, so the shipping companies, the clients, the shippers, and the financial, the banks and the financial service company working together voluntarily and rationally to drive the way towards the emissions-free economy. You have an initiative of mostly shipping companies that want to develop ships that will have zero emissions by 2030, which is a very ambitious target. You have the charters, the shippers that form a coalition called Sea Cargo Alliance, I think, or Sea Cargo Charter, which is essential that they will, in their decision making, they will prefer shipping companies that have a record of being ecologically friendly. And then you have the banking sector, which of course is the one that will, in the end, will have the stronger stick, that have formed the so-called Poseidon Principles, in which they will bank or they will support companies that show a track record of fighting climate change. So these are important elements that will drive change, are starting to drive change very, very quickly. And then you have the third factor, which we also talked about, and in fact is the main, is the center of today's webinar, which is the digital transition, is the technology. And the technology, as we all know, we're going through almost a Cambrian explosion in the number of applications, technological developments that are appearing. In fact, it's becoming quite difficult to decide which applications, which technology, which solutions you should use for your own business, for your own use. And I mean, what a few years ago it looked like science fiction, today is really science. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening. I'm just finished reading a book about an American scientist called Jennifer Doudna that received the Nobel Prize of Chemistry last year in 2020. And she's the one, or she led the team that invented the tool that enables splicing the genes, which is incredible. I mean, it's science fiction. Basically, they're able to splice the genes and put in whatever you want to make the cells, in this case, more resistance to attacks, to virus and so on, which is in the basis of what we have in today's vaccination. It's really mind-boggling. Okay, it's a tool called CRISPR, which is the initials are a very, very long name, and CRISPR basically is like a biological scissor. You go there, you take a piece of the genome, and you put in a piece that resists the virus. I mean, to me, this is mind-boggling. But anyway, this is to show that things that we thought were unimaginable became possible to imagine, and essentially there are no barriers, technological barriers. The barriers are much more the mental barriers. Now, what is happening, particularly in our area, in the maritime logistics and shipping and so on, is that there are lots of applications. And what eShip pretends to do, in fact, is to be a collaborative platform, to have a way of enable the communication among all these different platforms, so that the users, be it the shippers, the ship owners, the agents, the port operators, don't have to go and use 4, 5, 6 different applications to run and manage their business. They basically should be able to have a tool that helps integrating all this. And this is behind the idea of eShip. Okay, this is for the time being what I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jorge Almeida. I think it was